So this is what it's talking about. Like inciting suspicious practices, domestic violence, let's say someone's talking about hurting himself, right? Something, like, hey, someone's wife just left them, talking about guilt. That's a form of workplace violence. It's not really falls into the real mainstream, but it falls into that same, like, it needs to be talking about, it needs to be figured out. So then it's talking about, to your supervisor, security team, which we don't really have, so it's more referring to just, whatever we have in place, human resources, stuff like that. Then it talks about the levels. So low risk, obviously, like I said, that could be something like fucking fucking beat the shit out of you, something like that. That's all, stuff, right? Low risk, not such a big deal. Level 2, say multiple times. So you've got it in your face multiple times, something along those lines, and it's right, it's got to that point. High risk, that'd be, like I said, let's say some fuel night. It's got something like that, that's considered maybe some of the high risk. We don't have to worry about this one because nobody wants to deal with each other more than they already do, but let's say we have email work too. Good look. Yeah, and we have one of our guys that decided that they want to stop it while at home and stuff, right? That's the same thing. It's a form of workplace violence. And then a level 4 is active violence, weapon present, hostage, stuff like that. So that would be like somebody showed up and put it on the table and said, show that, right? Now, a lot of this is all obviously depending on the situation. It could go from low risk to high risk, it could go all sorts of different ways. But main thing about it is it's not such like a a set in stone flow chart where you can actually be like, oh my god, this is not a medium risk. I'm not worried about that. It's just it's got different escalations. The main thing that they want us to talk about with this flow chart on this one, this is how how awesome they want this set up. But biggest thing that we need to talk about on this is the next part. After the flow chart. 3 things that they want us to hit on. Mix it into this. The standard that they want us is also look up it, talk about it. It's like an FBI thing we can talk about for some of those stuff. Training, like big corporations, stuff like that. So 3 things. First thing you should do, according to them, is run. It's possible you run. Second, hide. And then finally, if you have to, fight. Now, it all depends on who you are, how you've been raised, what you feel you're capable of, etc. Right? For some of us in this room, they'd probably be a little more inclined to put the last one in the first spot. That's how it is. But this is the way they want it talked about, right? So obviously, run. You try to get out of here. You evacuate. You don't try and take your belongings with you. You help others, but only if it's not going to put yourself in harm's way. Now, once again, like I said, this is their take on it. If something like this was to truly happen, I'm sure there's some of us in this room that would do it differently. There's some people that, to be blunt and honest, have every intention of standing up to something like that, or something like that in a situation, and then it happens. They turn into the biggest fairy tale that, like, until you've been in a situation like that, you don't know exactly how it's going to go. Some people freeze, some people gets down their leg, some people some people turn to turn to ice in a good way. It just depends, right? So the main thing is though, like I said, is that's the three things they want to hit on is that run, hide, fight. They say that fight is the last resort, but like I said, this is all personal. Unless you're probably gonna act a little different, if something like that happens. And then when the police arrive, obviously, follow instructions, keep your hands visible. Don't run towards them because in that situation, half of them have probably not seen anything either and they're scared to death themselves. So, bomb threat stuff, which God forbid, I highly doubt we'll ever have either, but we don't know how that works out. But it talks about, stay calm, and that's if somebody called in on them. Keep talking, record it, notify, don't touch any systems bad. Next part says do's and do nots, obviously, don't touch it, don't move it, don't open it, if we're not approaching any bomb text, don't try to mess with it. You're not Keanu Reeves on speed or something, you're trying to mess with it or whatever you want to say, so. Workplace violence prevention, so talks about obviously manager is part of it, but also employees, like if you have people that show an escalating anger, threatening language, once again, that's what the coffee shop, being upset and it's all past. Like I doesn't say anything to Jose and Sammy sometimes would sit there and fucking rail at each other, right? Because fucking nail fucking. Like the whole time shit to each other, but guess what? At the end of the day, it wasn't anything beyond them. Right? So unless that's how we work together, right? But there's a difference. You have somebody that's normally, let's say like a Brady, not in a bad way, no silent Brady over here. Who never says anything really. Or except when he needs to, or what's moved on, which is not a bad thing. But let's say one day he comes in and it's just like, fucking kill you. That's different, right? That's out of character for 3 years. That's a sign, so that's what it's talking about. It talks about post-incident recovery, all that good stuff. Like if something happens, what we need to do, and it talks about that in the workplace, the prevention one. And then the annual training part of it. So, any questions, thoughts, concerns? Okay. Sign and date. Print, sign and date, please. Some of your all signature fucking shit. Can't read who's saying it. Oh, you're. At least I can somewhat read the prints usually. Alright, I'll go ahead and while you guys are signing that, I'll go ahead and start this next one. So this one is the actual full-blown prevention policy. So the purpose is, we're providing a safe, secure workplace for all employees, contractors, etc. Workplace violence, harassment, disruptive behavior. This talks about prevention, reporting, the same stuff. Like I said, this one here, it's a plan attached into the policy. All right, so it applies to everybody. Doesn't matter if it's bigger, it doesn't matter if it's, delivery guy or it doesn't matter. Right up here, it's all over this. Like for instance, on the bad way, guys next door. For those of you that don't know, we've had some run-ins with them before in the past. They're not fans of a few of our employees for different reasons that I'm not going to get into, but there's been a few times that we're almost been brawls in the parking lot. Technically, while they're around us, they should follow this too. So, same deal. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna hit on it. Big thing is zero tolerance. So, like I said, there's a difference between talking shit and there's a difference between something else. So, it talks about you could be subject to, to disciplinary action up until and through termination. And this following what's going on, as well as criminal prosecution. So let's say you come in here, threaten to knife somebody, try to stab them. you're, yeah, you can get shit thrown at you, right? Talks about your guys' like responsibilities, so obviously you guys, it says talking about remaining alert to situations. That should be everything, right? That should be paying attention all the time to everything, even safety stuff, whatnot, so it's all the same kind of stuff. Um, you know, with threats, like I said, let's say Brady over here, you know, quiet guy all of a sudden comes in here and talks about he's gonna blow fucking business, Brady's out. That's an escalation. It's not something you normally now. You know, Robert, they work together all the time. Let's say Robert's joking about something with Jose, you know, about fuck you, fuck you, fucking, I'm gonna stab you in your sleep. You know, or something. We know it's a joke. You know, we know the banter between you two, right? It's a hard deal trying to figure it out. But who's in the back? Okay. He's hiding in the back. Main thing is just for you guys, it's just paying attention, obviously following procedures in the hospital. Talks about for us, supervisor managers, promoting a safe work environment, taking all work seriously, you know, utilizing de-escalation techniques. Biggest thing for that is that if you guys come to us with somebody, we don't just write it off. Right?
Somebody's buying one.
Huh?
Somebody's buying one.
Like I said, it's just because of that creation, so we're gonna talk about it. Well, me and Mason are gonna go outside after this, we knock his teeth out.
Screw you.
All right, talks about initial and annual training, so from here on out, get hired or change assignment, which is like, let's say you do Texas moves up here or something like that, whatever. We'll touch on this, whenever we change it, or at least annually. Training, talking about warning signs, for procedures, active shooting response, de-escalation, roles and responsibility, so awareness and reporting, talks about any of us to report concerns,
Yeah.
um. Let's see here. Just to talk about like risk assessment, security measures. You know, if you're trained on it, you can also use de-escalation techniques. I think that's a lot of it in general. It talks about maintaining calm and professional demeanor, listening, non-threatening communication. You know, trying to figure out ways to de-escalate it. The reason I bring that up is this also goes for, let's say it's just normal bullshit patient. It's one of those days and Robert's just sick of fucking because of this shit.
Yeah.
For whatever reason,
Get your ass inside.
he just, it's one of those days. Can't work together no more. We've had that happen in the past where we've had guys that, you know, worked together before for a while, and then maybe to the point where they like, you know, sick of each other, or something happened, something got said or whatever.
Big cards.
Here, got meetings or
Yep. So, main thing with that is just trying to figure out ways to de-escalate. Avoid each other, whether it's, you know, calling Joey, for instance, and saying, hey, I just can't do it today, I'm just not else, or whatever, we're figuring it out. Main thing is just understanding that, you know, we all have bad days, we all have shitty stuff going on at home, you know, there's that saying that, you know, you kind of work, you do your personal shit at home, but we all know that sometimes that shit leads together, however much you want it to. So the main thing it talks about is this, I wish I could have, I probably should have bold, underlined it, whatever, but it talks about employees should always prioritize personal safety. It goes for mental safety, everything. So if you got stuff going on, let's say you show up at work today, and like say girlfriend left, whatever, dog died, whatever, wife's cheating on you, I mean, we all know there's situations that just affect you differently, right? But if you're not capable of working, you're not capable of, you know, not being a dickhead for the day or whatever.
Yeah,
it may
being a
be.
dickhead.
You know, obviously, it may be something to talk to us and figure it out, and do something different. Talks about limitations on your intervention. So don't, it talks about do not attempt to physically intervene, blah, 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 blah. Main thing is once again, we all know that we're all human, we all have ways of dealing with stuff. It may be a little bit different. Some of us might have a feeling to try and step in, try to de-escalate it, try to do stuff. Main thing is it's personal choice. You know, live with consequences. Like, let's say you try to step in and, you know, you try to step in and prevent a fight, and the next thing, you know, you're the one in a fight. Those of you that have ever gotten in the middle of a bar brawl or anything like that, you know how often that happens. You're trying to keep something from happening, the next thing you know, somebody's trying to punch you or something. It happens. So you gotta take responsibility for anything you mess up. Talks about, you know, contact emergency services. We already covered that in the other one. Active shooter response, we already talked about that one. Big thing left to talk about is if there is something that happens. Priority should obviously be given to protecting yourselves, safety of others. Get medical assistance if needed. Secure the area and cooperate with any kind of emergency stuff if needed. So let's say we had, like, for instance, like an active shooter. Came in here, you know, disgruntled employee, started trying to shoot the place up, shot the place up, whatever. We're not just gonna set everyone in here and after it's done. Everybody's gotta vacate the area, we gotta keep, you know, you don't pick up the shell cases, you don't, you know, you don't pick up firearms necessarily, stuff like that. You just gotta measure that you leave the scene as much secure as possible so that authorities can do their work and all that kind of crap. I don't know how many of you guys have ever watched CSI or any of the other ones, right? You pick up shell casings, you got fingerprints on it, money silver investigation, stuff like that. So that's one of the main things to talk about. And then it talks about incident reporting. So obviously, if there's any kind of, you know, incident, what we do, prevention of reoccurrence. So basically, that means, like, let's say we have an incident like that where somebody shows up and shoots the place up. As a company, we're gonna step back and we'll look at stuff, what's going on. If, you know, maybe like for those of you that have been to school in the last couple of years, for instance. Yeah, I'm looking on the young partners. Like back in the day, we didn't have locked school doors. We didn't have last group, you know, class, you know, with bulletproof glass and stuff like that. We go to schools nowadays. A lot of that's implemented, right? We only come in certain ways, you have to shop through, and we have to, you know. Part of that is because what's happened in society now, right? Because of what's happened, they've changed things. So, you know, obviously, should prevent that. That's what it's talking about here, is just talking about what happens. The main part of it, it says, if you go to the top of page 7, it says update Swamp Roads LLC threat management plan. That's what it goes for. That's like I said, this taps into this here. This is just a breakdown of the risk levels and how you deal with it. Then it talks about if something happens, well, you can have lasting emotional and psychological impact, right? Those of you that, yeah, PTSD. For those of you that have ever, you know, lost anybody from like not like a death in family, but I'm saying like, you know, a car wreck or you know, stuff like that, right? There's certain things it weighs heavier on me than this talks about. So if anything like that happens, we will provide any kind of help you guys need for dealing with it. We have just gone to an employee show up, starts to shoot us up, and you know, stop them and put them down for you. And because of that, you can't sleep at night. That's what it's talking about. And then the last thing it really hit on, the last few things, excuse me, really hit on, or say something like that happens, active shooter, et cetera. Main thing is, as we all know how it is, the media, how they sniff that stuff out. Main thing is, we don't post anything, we don't make any statements, we do not talk to the media, hop on TikTok or whatever. We usually because all that can interfere with the investigation. Say, you know, oh, it was so and so, but you know, don't realize that I stepped on, you falsely accused of it or whatever. So don't talk to nobody, don't do anything like that. And then the last one is non-retaliation. So this is a big one. If you come to us and you say, hey, I think Mason, I honestly think Mason's not gonna, I think he, you know, the other day he's talking about, he's so fucking sick there, he's gonna talk, I'm sure he's gonna come in here and cheat. And it's a legit concern. You feel like that's, you feel like it's something that you come to us, talk to us, there's not gonna be any retaliation against you in any way, shape, or form. That's, you know, you just letting us know what's going on. You're looking out for him, you're looking out for your channel. Fair enough? You great man? Fair. Go ahead and sign and date that one too. I said, I know it's a little tedious. I know there's a lot of it's kind of, you know, one of those deals, but like I said, Curry came out with it. It's one of the things that they're requiring. I'm actually surprised that it's not a requirement in a lot of companies, honestly. But I'm sure it's gonna be some, there's policy that gets changed. So main thing is obviously if something happens, say it in words or. As you know, I get my feelings hurt sometimes. But that's the main thing. It's talking over that. So, due to us talking over this, we're gonna watch a fun training video real quick.
Yeah, Netflix on there too.
And other stuff. All right.
You should watch a documentary.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's what ancient aliens.
You sure should.
Oh.
Yeah, well, yeah, you bashed your head against this table when you were down.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's couple chairs, we make it right.
Yeah. I've done that before too, Mason. It's embarrassing.
I don't give a fuck if it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's a picture. It's a look guy.
Alright. It's like 5 minutes long. I got one. All right. We'll go through this real quick. Obviously, like I said, that's an extreme situation, but. Got advice for all sorts of other stuff, just besides workplace stuff, so we had to get it forwarded or whatever, and, you know, God knows how today's world is, so. We'll just go through this real quick. In the event of an active shooter, FBI recommends your first action is to what? I like it. D, screen. All right, number 2. What should you retrieve from your desk to bring with you when escaping from an active shooter?
Nothing.
Okay, that's the main thing, right? You know, like just get away from it. Number 3, once you reach safety, you should. Yep, warn others to call 911, right? 4, if you must hide, then make sure you move blank.
Silent.
Remain as silent as possible. Number 5, your last resort should be to a fight. And number 6, once law enforcement arrives, blank.
Approach them with your hands.
B, approach them with your hand in the air and push back. Like I said, obviously, everybody's gonna handle it differently. Like I said, some of us are probably gonna do stuff differently. Everybody has the greatest intention sometimes you do. Right. All you have to do is listen. Obviously, like I said, some people handle stuff differently, and it all depends on the situation. Some people have the greatest intentions, and when something happens, and they,
One es de pollo y de buenas.
like I said, completely. Yeah, just kind of like that kind of stuff. So we all have different responses to, fear and all that good stuff. So, yeah, so. On a different note, this is something that happened down in Texas. They wanted to talk about, not for us, but yeah, I know lots of it. That's why I was going. Everybody, it wasn't with us. I know, yeah. All right, real quick. So this happened with Hillcorp, one of the companies that was working down there. That's not something that happened with our guys either, it's something they put out, so. Says they received multiple reports of honeybee activity. We'll talk about the hazard of it. One of their sister teams recently experienced a reportable incident. Illness of babies. Resulted in the use of an annoying. For those of you that don't know, if you're allergic to bees, an allergy, like it could be fatal, if, lost. So if there is anybody that ever has a bee allergy or anything along those lines, what do they need to carry? They need to carry an EpiPen. For those of you that don't know what an EpiPen is, it's basically like a, say that it's a. Basically, like, for those of you that don't understand, it's basically the benefit of steroids, like it keeps them from the throat closing up, stuff like that. So it's usually a self-administered. Auto injection, banging against their thigh. So they had like I said, a reportable incident because of it. That obviously it just serves as a reminder that bee loss activity can lead to a serious risk for someone to die. But like I said, that's if we have allergic allergies to it. If we did, then we have to consider obviously whoever that is away from stuff that could possibly put them at a greater risk. It's just the way it is, something we gotta look at, but I don't think any of us have, I don't think anybody here has, so if they do, it's a lot, it's not. And some people are allergic enough, they get stung, it's like, we're exposing pretty quick that stuff, so. But part of what I wanted to chat about that with is not so much the allergy part, but just it is getting to that time of year. Make sure you're paying attention to when you're testing stuff. Those of you that don't know or have not experienced, if you have a wellhead, for instance, that has garden around it, the insulation. I like to go nest inside there. Sometimes snakes like to. Stuff like that, especially if there's birds in there, those things like to climb up there and gigs. And stuff, so just throwing that up there. Tanks, you're up by the tanks, and wasp stuff, they love the gas off of the tanks, no matter what it is. Well, so just be thinking about that type of stuff. That's something. Yeah, you get something, that's something that I would be getting anyway, it's just probably get every truck has at least one can on it, kill stuff, but. Well, if you have an issue or whatever, obviously, I mean, especially some of the companies we work for like Chevron or something, if you, let's say you go to move something or you kick the hornet's nest, literally kind of be able to fucking all over, what do you do? Crash. Right? You're not gonna sit there and work in it, right? It's an unsafe condition. It's one of those deals that, obviously it's, prioritizing you guys the same. Something like I said, on the so just be mindful of that if you see something, one of the examples that they sent over in the picture was a drum. Looks like, for wire, something like that. School, probably had a wasp nest inside there, right? That's probably what it was, or honeybees or whatever. So, we're moving stuff in the yard too. It doesn't, we have to be on location, just be paying attention. Like, so it's that time of year. The other thing that they wanted us to talk about, we hit it a few times already, but just, the heat, the hydration stuff. Make sure you guys are taking breaks. You don't have enough water, say something, don't wait until you have it comes out and says, oh, I only have water for the last 6 hours. Doesn't even now, I carry it in my truck, sliders. Stuff like that. Don't wait till it's a problem. Before you say something. Monitor each other, if you see, let's say Robert was here working together. And he looks at Robert, he notices he hasn't been drinking water. And starting to lean against the wellhead, it looks like he's falling asleep and water and stuff, right? He looks like something's wrong. Make sure you're paying attention to it, take a break and check it. And then obviously one thing we talked about is if something happens before you meet. Say, I saw the other day, I think it was, Mickey, I think he filled it out. With the observation part about working on the Chevron stuff and they were messing with the separator when it's very all that crap. Biggest thing is, what did we do immediately? We call it Troy, right? Doesn't matter what company it is, whatever, but that's the biggest thing. No. Let the company record, let us know. So we can fix it, right? So, but that, like I said, that was something out of Texas that we want to talk about, so.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming you have something to chat about, something right here.
Yes. The mileage on the tickets, it's not the odometer. It is the actual mileage your vehicle is driven that day, whether it's the rig or your pickup. Round trip. Point A, point B, back.
So if you're going on, let's say you need 2 tickets, let's say, Carlos, you go out in the morning, you go to one location. And they're like, okay, you got it run, you gotta move to the next one. When you finalize that ticket, what you drove to that location, and then,
So if that was 20 miles, put 20 down.
yeah.
And then to the next location, you start from there. At 5 miles.
Yeah.
Well, 5 miles to that location, but if you are done that day, and then you add the mileage back to your house or to the shop, wherever.
So let's say 20 in the morning, let's say you drove 20 there. So 20 in the first ticket, you drive on the next location, it'd be 5. Say, or whatever it is, you go to the next location, and then you go home from that location, it's 25, it'd be 30, it's 5 plus 25, it's 30. So you not go down there.
For the pickup, for the.
That's why it's got 2 different spots. So if you move the rig mileage is on there. If you need, so say the rig's on location, we'll use that example. You drove 20 miles to location and fixed the mines. And then you're mixing the wells running. We need the rig to a new location, we move that 5 miles, and then you drive the 25. So it'd be 30 miles on the rig, it'd be 50 miles on the pickup. Each road trip. 20 in the location, yeah, plus the 30. So it makes
So
sense.
the focus in the morning, you have to drive the miles in the pickup.
Like we were talking,
If
you're
you
traveling.
just reset your trip.
Yeah.
Every morning, that'd probably be the easiest.
Honestly, and if not, like we talked to, if you got the app for the well finder, you can always look that up too. And just see how far you're listening to it, et cetera. Main thing is it's just the reason we implemented that, like we talked a couple weeks ago, is because we have to report that. And it is one of the biggest pain in us deals is trying to figure out how many miles we've driven or who, what company. So when we put it on the ticket, it makes it a lot easier because then we can just pull it up and we can go, hey, how many miles have we driven for Chevron this month or whatever? And it'll come up and we'll just total that number and it's done. So,
At the end of every month, we have to do goals for every company, so. It just makes it easier on us instead of. I guess,
and some of them were easy, right? There's some of them we did a couple jobs.
yeah,
It's not such a big deal. But you should just,
Definitely.
some of those, I mean, when I did that last one, it was a small one. And it was 100 tickets. Yeah, it's a small one, and it's 100 tickets. Normally it's much more than that. But you figure trying to do the math on that, because nowhere on there's listed. So I basically went through and figured out the mileage that you guys drove. Rough mileage at least, just to make it what is set. Yeah,
it's still quite a bit.
yeah. So we're just trying to make it easy for everybody. It's one of those deals where it's a little bit of work up front, and same as a lot of work on the back end. So, but yeah, just, I mean, and it doesn't have to be exact. If you put down the exact number, much better, but let's say you have to write it down, okay, it was, it was roughly 30 months. And we said it's 28. It's not gonna be a big deal for a chair. Everybody wish Robert a happy birthday because the whole. It's kind of stuff for the family.